As many of you know, I've spent some time with Ron Paul on the trail. I'm impressed by his broad coalition of support, and I've championed his commitment to always speaking the truth, no matter how unpopular it might be. Well, now the New Republic is set to publish a piece on Friday that questions whether Ron Paul is really the man he seems to be. The piece cites offensive passages from newsletters published under Ron Paul's name going as far back to the 1970s. Paul's campaign acknowledges that their candidate did publish these newsletters for years, but it says he did not see everything before it went to print. The campaign has also apologized, most recently to me on the phone. Well, joining me now is the author of this new piece, the New Republic's Jamie Kirchick. Jamie, thanks for coming on.
Tucker, thanks for having me.
So the Paul campaign says, yeah, some friends of his misused his name and published unattractive, slightly crazy, maybe very crazy things under his name. They're sorry, and Ron Paul never saw these passages. Do you buy that?
No. Well, when I first asked Ron Paul's spokesman about this, Jesse Benton, he said that he had actually written parts of the newsletter. And then he changed his story somewhat after I read him, for example, passages where Ron Paul called Martin Luther King a gay pedophile. And after that, he said, well, this was ghostwritten, and the offensive parts weren't written by Ron Paul. So no, I don't believe it. And you have 20 years of a newsletter here, which are going to be available on our website starting tomorrow, actually, at tnr.com. 20 years of a newsletter that is filled with racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic invective. And it's called the Ron Paul Political Report, or the Ron Paul Freedom Report. And it's published by an outfit called Ron Paul and Associates. So I really find that defense to be just utterly unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt he was at very least negligent. It's not, I agree, it's not much of an explanation. Here's the one thing, though, that troubles me about the allegation of racism. Ron Paul seems to be the kind of guy who will say exactly what he thinks. If he was a racist, why wouldn't he just say so?
Well, let's keep in mind that the actual racist portions of this newsletter were published when he was not in Congress. It was in between 1984 and 1996, for the most part. 1988, 1996, when he was not actually in Congress. So when you're not in Congress, there's less scrutiny, there's less attention paid to what you're saying. And look, let's just see what happened, last weekend. We have Barack Obama, who's on the verge of becoming the first black Democratic presidential nominee, serious presidential contender. So, racism of this sort, as readers will see, that racism of this sort just doesn't get you votes anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, but I mean, some of this stuff, I agree, is offensive and weird. Some of it, though, criticizing Barbara Jordan as the archetypal half-educated victimologist, I don't know. I mean, it's not racist not to respect Barbara Jordan, is it?
No, it's not. But what about saying that New York City should be called Zooville as opposed to naming it after Martin Luther King, which is what he said, or Welfaria? He called black people animals, and said that his readers of his newsletter should move out to the country, buy guns, because the animals are coming. This was just a couple years before the Los Angeles riots. And again, these aren't isolated. These aren't isolated incidents. I mean, we should know that back in 1996, about 2 or 3 of these newsletters were revealed at the time, and Paul said that they had been taken out of context. Then 5 years later, he said that he didn't write them, but he took moral responsibility for them. So what we thought were just isolated examples back in 1996, now we're going to see are actually part of a 2-decade-long career just full of this stuff.
Do you have any evidence he's ever said anything like this?
You mean said it out loud or in person?
Yeah, said out like him himself, Ron Paul, get out there and say something racist or sexist.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. No, I did. We do know, however, I have found out that he spoke at a pro-secession conference in 1995. This was a neo-Confederate organization putting this on, and he spoke along many other writers who advocate for secession. Actually, just last week on MSNBC, he touted a book called The Real Lincoln by a guy named Thomas DiLorenzo, who was a neo-Confederate. He has long associations with these types of people. And what he does, Tucker, is he speaks in code. He's a transmitter. he'll say certain things that, you know, at first might not appear to be overtly racist, but to certain audiences, they know what he's talking about. So when he talks about secession, he says it in a way that isn't exactly neo-Confederate, or it isn't exactly explicitly neo-Confederate, but to people who are in the know and to people who are a part of those, you know, neo-Confederate communities, know exactly what he's talking about.
Boy, I must say it's gone right over my head. But I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Jamie Kirchick from the New Republic.
Tucker,
Peace
thanks
out
for having
today.
me.
Thanks.
Stay warm.